Hello, this is Brian Foster on Kardec Radio, presenting the program Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us.
Hello, and a wonderful Sunday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific, all time zones in between and around the world. On July 15th, 2018, another program on Kardec Radio. We are here streaming live on the Facebook page Kardec Radio and live on Kardec Radio. Again, please get your app on Kardec Radio that you can listen to on your iOS, your Apple phone, or your Android phone. It's 24 hours a day. There are programs on it constantly. Anywhere you are in the world, you can listen to Kardec Radio. So just type in the App Store, or I think the Play Store on Android is Kardec, Kardec, Radio, Radio, and it's a free app. You can listen to us all the time. And I see more and more people coming on Kardec Radio every week. When I get on, I see more and more people listening actually live to this program. Thank you very much. And I want to welcome everybody on Kardec Radio Facebook page. Again, I'm seeing more and more people on Kardec Radio Facebook page. There are many wonderful programs by many different spiritists who are giving live streaming programs on Kardec Radio. A lot of discussions on Kardec Radio. So please, join that Kardec Radio page. Also, you can join my group Facebook page, which is Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us. Again, people will go there, they'll ask questions, they'll post spiritist meetings, etc. You'll get a lot of play between people. It's a wonderful site. You can actually get to that site, both of the sites, from my blog, which is nwspiritism.com, which you can see on the banner below. Click on that, and then you can go down on the right-hand navigation page, and you'll see Kardec Radio. You'll see links to our Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us Facebook group. You'll also see links to our YouTube channel. We have gotten a lot more people on our YouTube channel lately. We are posting, well, first of all, we post this live stream video every time we do it, and we're posting smaller videos that we had with that we create talking about different aspects of Spiritism. And also, like last week, I had a video I posted with Sarah Troy of Self-Discovery Radio, which she is a spiritist, a spiritualist, not a spiritist, I should correct that, who has Self-Discovery Radio. I posted that to the YouTube channel. You can see that interview I had with her, almost an hour and a half interview. We talked about a lot of things. She's a medium with a great truth. Almost everything she said corresponded with what actually we know in Spiritism. That's one thing you see. Spiritism isn't unique. Well, first, Spiritism all starts from here. The Spirits Book, codified by Allan Kardec in the 1850s. And it really brought together everything from different spirits, all organized by the Spirit of Truth. And it came and gave us answers to many questions. And in fact, what we are talking about now is inspired by the Reverend G. Vale Owen, How We Are Guided by Spirits. And he had a set of revelations from different high spirits in the early 1900s. And he actually told us even more than what Allan Kardec. So the great thing about Spiritism is you just keep adding to it. And there's also people like Sarah Troy, who is a spiritualist. She's essentially told many of the same type of things, which is very interesting. So Spiritism isn't like some sort of weird thing. It's from collection of many high spirits who've all been selected by Jesus Christ, our leader, our governor of our planet. And different types of spirits will tell different types of medium things, but Spiritism is really the one that starts codifying it, brings it together, gives it organization and structure, and really starts showing you exactly what's going on. It brings it all together. You'll see many great books from spiritualists and mediums who are talking to one spirit or channeling a spirit or two. But Spiritism is really, you have multiple mediums throughout from the 1850s talking to spirits. Chico Xavier psychographed more than almost 500 books actually. and from many different spirits. And same thing with Vale Owen talked to many different spirits, and people like Yvonne Pierre, all wonderful. So again, it all started with this book, the Spirits book. So I would encourage everyone to listen to that, to read that book. And you can get that book. You can put in Allan Kardec, the Spirits book, PDF. You can find a PDF. You can go to my site, nwspiritism.com, and you can click on his picture on the right-hand side. You can go to the EDI-CEI bookstore. So now let's get into the meat of the program. So this is exciting. Again, if you have any comments, you can post them live from Facebook. Let me put this down a little bit so we can see them right there. Okay. We are talking on how we are guided by spirit. So let's begin this as how we are inspired by spirits. Now, the Spirit Zabdial in his messages to the Reverend Vale Owen reveals to us that we are inspired by spirits. And of course, the same thing was said in the book, the Spirits book, and other writings by Allan Kardec, Chico Xavier, others. But again, we're told we are just, as we get this information and it's compiled and it's complementary to other information from other Spiritist authors. So it just proves one another, and it's consistent with actually what other spiritualists and other people have said. So Allan Kardec, Codifier of Spiritism, presented to the world that communications from the Spirit of Truth and other high spirits, that we are immortal souls who live life after life to better ourselves and to one day become pure spirits. Our path to ascension is to fortify our hearts with love, charity, and fraternity for all humankind, and to rid ourselves of the baser emotions of hate, envy, pride, and selfishness. Now, according to Allan Kardec's book, the book on mediums, written in the 1850s, we are all inspirational mediums, right? All of us are influenced by the good and bad, ignorant, immature spirits around us. And Allan Kardec, in his book on mediums, explains, inspiration comes to all of us from spirits who influence for good or evil in every circumstance of our lives and in every resolution we make. And it may therefore be truly said that in this respect, everyone is a medium. For there is no one who has not about him his familiar spirits, who do their utmost to suggest, salute, good or bad counsels to those with whom they are connected, a truth, which, were we duly penetrated with its reality and importance, would frequently lead us to oppose a more effectual resistance to the suggestions of evil, by seeking the inspiration of our guardian angel in our moments of uncertainty as to what we should say or do. At such times, we should invoke that watchful guardians with fervor and confidence as a providentially appointed friend. And if we did so, we should often be astonished at the new ideas which would arise in our minds, as though by enchantment, whether for the taking of an important decision or for the accomplishing of our special work. Oh, that's a very profound and pertinent information, because almost everything you read from Allan Kardec is just wonderful. But this is really telling us, right? We all have how close we are to the spirit world, how we are not just put on this planet to be by ourselves, right? And the fact is that how we all have moments of inspiration, flashes of brilliance, which provide some key piece of knowledge that we have been searching for. And many of these sparks are caused by spirits who choose to influence us. Kardec recommends that we use these gems given to us, but first filter the idea through our conscience and instinct to determine the validity of the suggestion. Allan Kardec goes on to say that people of genius are mediums without being aware of it. These people have the innate sense to call superior spirits to provide the assistance they seek. Allan Kardec completes this section on inspirational mediums with this communication from the spirit world. He asks, what are the primal causes of inspiration? The communication of his thoughts by a spirit. And he asks a question, is the inspiration confined to the revelation of great things? And the answer from high spirits is this: no, it often has reference to the most commonplace circumstances of your daily life. For instance, you may have thought of going somewhere, but in a secret voice tells you not to go because there's danger in the way, or it tells you to do something which you have not thought of doing. This is inspiration. There are very few people who are not more or less inspired in this way at certain moments. Think of all the people who are like, we're going to board a plane that went down later, right? He said, well, for some reason, I always make my plans. I just didn't make it. The alarm didn't go off, or I just felt something, and that is really inspiration from spirits who are actually talking to them, saying, no, you're not meant to go on that plane, to that flight at that moment in time. That's for other people. Your time is different. Therefore, we're going to stop you. And I've known friends. A friend of mine, as he was driving along, and the voice of his father came to him and says, "Slow down. There's a deer going to be in front of your car, and run in front of you." And he slowed down, and all of a sudden this deer came. But he was ready for it. These things happen all the time, and so those are spirits. Now, what we have to learn is, what are we born for? We are born with our conscience and our instinct. Those come from previous lives. Therefore, we have to put anything we're inspired, because remember, we live in a sea of spirits, and there are good guardian angels. There are people that really want the best, and there are poor souls that are just around us in the lower zone of the umbral, as they say in Portuguese, who are just there, kind of parking their time, or actually want to do harm. And therefore, anything that we think about, we have to make sure, okay, is this good? Is this love? Is this just, charitable, and fraternal? I know that's one of the most important things Spiritism tells us, is to filter everything through our conscience. So through the time and effort Allan Kardec spent with many mediums throughout Europe to codify Spiritism, the act of inspiration by spirits was documented. Although many religions have known this to be a fact for thousands of years, Spiritism gave context and reasons for spirits, good and ignorant, to send us thoughts and feelings. Then in the 1920s, Zabdal, a spirit who lives on the 10th level of heaven, as I said before, well, these spirits you talk to Vale Owen, and in which I, all put in this book, How We Are Guided by Spirits, which you can find on my site. I have all of my books on the right-hand side. You can go to my site, nwspiritism.com, and you can find my books. You can also see this. And when this is on YouTube, you can go to the description below, and there are links to all of my books. And reading Vale Owen, what I've done on categories, all this stuff, it's just amazing, all the information he brought to us. It's complementary to the books by Chico Xavier, Ivan Piera, and Divaldo Franco, and other spiritist authors, Leon Denis, etc. So, as I said before, in the 1920s, Zabdal, a spirit who lives on the 10th level of heaven, added to the discourse of how spirits inspire men and women in book 2 of the book, The Life Beyond the Veil. He explained to the Reverend Vale Owen what inspiration from spirit to incarnate really entails. First, he spoke about the word inspiration. Now, this is what's wonderful about this book. It starts diving deeper, exactly how these things work. This is what he said. Now, this word is very expressive if understood aright, and very misleading if not so understood. For that we inbreathe into the hearts of men knowledge of the truth of God is true, but is only very little of the truth. For more than this we do give to them, and with other things, strength to progress and work God's will, love to work that will from high motive and wisdom, which is knowledge blended with love, to work God's will aright. And if a man is said to be inspired, this is not a singular case, nor one exceptional. For all who try to live well, and few do not in some degree, are by us inspired and so helped. So again, this is just backing up what Allan Kardec said in the 1850s to what is now being told to Reverend Vale in the 1920s. Zabdal went on to explain that breathing in the suggestions from a spirit may not be adequate. It is more like a person absorbs a wave of vibrating energy, which flows into the body and the mind of the recipient. It may be a feeling of peace or of renewed vitality. Zabdal supplies us with the types of inspirations we receive. Now, listen to this and see if you have not gotten these. I'm sure that some of us have gotten these types of inspiration. I know I have. This is what he said. But we would not limit the meaning of the word to those alone, and elegant words tell out to the world of some new truth of God, or some old truth refurbished and made as new. The mother tending her child in sickness, the driver of the engine along the railway, the navigator guiding the ship, all and others do their work of their peculiar power, self-contained, but as occasion and circumstances require, modified and supplemented by our own. This is so even when the receiver of our help is unaware of our presence. And this more often than not, we give gladly while we are able, and we are able so long as no barrier is opposed to us by him we would help. So this is showing that people, they get these things, right? They get these ideas, and then they may just get energy. And we may never realize the exact time and circumstances when we are touched and aided by a divine spark. The important point to keep in mind is to open yourself up to let the light in, not to erect fences whereby good intentions are blocked. Zabdal tells us factors that can cut off help from on high. So these are things that we should know that not to do, right? So the barrier may be raised in some ways, he says. If he be of obstinate mind, we may not impose on him our counsel, for he is free to will and do so. And sometimes when we see great need of our help being given, the barrier of sin is interposed and we cannot get through it. Then those who counsel wrongly do their work, and grievous is the plight of those whom they minister. So Zabdal, as did Allan Kardec, as the mediums, wrote to as a spiritual to different mediums that Allan Kardec codified, warns of the advice given by ignorant or inferior spirits. Once we open our gates to hate, envy, selfishness, and pride, we shall be visited by spirits who wish to encourage us in our base behavior. Demonstrating our human weakness gives pleasure, entertainment to poor souls who haven't risen above enjoying other people's mistakes and pain. Spirits who mean us harm do so out of spite. They wish to see and feel the same acts they committed accomplished by others. Temporarily unable to allow love inside themselves, they cling to what they know best and wish the world to do likewise. To combat unwarranted interference by low spirits, cultivate in love and caring in everyday life. Zabdal said, kind words later beget kind deeds. And so love is multiplied with love, joy, and peace. And they who love to give and give for love's own sake are shooting golden darts, which fall into the streets of the heavenly city and are gathered up and carefully stored away till they who sent them come and receive their treasures once again with increase. So what's he telling us? He says that love and assistance is everywhere. We merely have to tap into it. We have to make it part of our being in a daily habit. We are told a simple process. This is what is so wonderful about all the messages from high spirits. They're telling us, they're not only telling us things happen, they're telling us actually how to achieve to be a better person, how to ascend, right? But that's what Spiritism tells us to do, is we are to ascend. We are to become one day a perfect spirit. So this is the process he tells us. So do every one these two things. See that your light is kept burning as they who wait for the Lord. For it is his will we do in this matter, and it is his strength we bring. Prayers are allotted us to answer, and his answer is sent to us by his servants. So be watchful and wakeful for our coming. Who are of those who came to him in the wilderness and in Gethsemane? I'll bet I think they would be of much higher degree than I. And the other to bear in your mind is this. So you keep your motive high and noble, and seek not selfishly, but for others' welfare. We minister best to the progress of those who seek our help for the benefit of their brethren rather than their own. And giving ourselves, receive, and so do you. The larger part of motive must be to give, as he said, and in that way, the greater blessing, and that for all. So we need to disband our selfishness, right? And we need to want to try and pray the good for other people. We will be taken care of. The High Spirit Joanna de Angelis said that we should keep some things in mind, right? We always need to have love, right? Goodness, compassion. We need to have faith in our future, because that has all been thought out by the spirit world, by God and Jesus. What's going to happen to us is going to be the best for us, and gratitude for where we are. And we keep that in mind, and we keep that gratitude in mind, and then we try to help other people. We put out constant positive thoughts for other people. And therefore, we are constantly guided on our path by the spirit world. We just need to keep our heart and mind open. The signs will come to light the way, to select the right option, to find the right person. The more you expend yourself on others, the greater will be your reward in the afterlife. And I've written books on this. One of the things I did is I wrote a book, is The 7 Tenets of Spiritism, How They Affect Your Daily Life. You can find that on my blog, nwspiritism.com. Again, that's The 7 Tenets of Spiritism, How They Affect Your Daily Life. And that's how I started finding the signs and signals, how I discovered that I am constantly watched and guided and assisted and, kind of led on the correct path. The other book I've written about this is How to Live Inner Peace Through Spiritism. And this is taking a kind of a 24-step from the spirit Andre Luis, who wrote a whole series of books for Chico Xavier. And I went through each one of them and expanded on what it means, how we should come to that state, and how that's going to help us on our path to perfection, how it's going to make us happier, more calm, and less stressed here on earth in our life, right? Because our life is stressful. But what Spiritism does, and what's just done for me, it's reduced stress and anxiety so much. It's just amazing. It actually has reduced I'm not worried about little things. I'm not even worried about big things anymore. I know my life is on the track, good or bad, right? These things will happen. I know my life is on the track for me to learn the lessons I need to learn. So let's look at the opposite, right? So on another message to the Reverend G. Vale Owen was, and this is also by Zabdal, was how not to prepare for life after death. Because basically what we're told by Spiritism is that, being here on earth in this life is just a state, right? We are in the physical state. We're in incarnate state. Our usual life really is as a spirit, not as someone on earth. Why are we on earth? We are on earth to learn, right? We are like in a middle school, junior high school, whatever they're called in your part of the world, is, when you're like the, 13, 14, which is, amazingly hard ages. So we're just watching. We are allowed to do, because we are allowed free will, but we are given set classes, and we can, either make good of it or make a disaster and make all the wrong choices, or make some good choices, bad choices. That's why we're on earth. That's why we're in the physical state, for us to learn these things. We go then life after life, and we improve, right? We learn from our lessons. Our character comes out when we're about between 15 and 18. And that's, like the teenage years, all of a sudden their true character comes out. They're malleable as a child. And then they go through more learning processes. Hopefully their parents kind of help mold them to the better. Sometimes not. Depends on the circumstances and their trial on earth. And that's how we improve, right? And we go life after life. Who knows how many lives? We probably have millions of lives. And not just on this planet, other planets. So let's talk about how to prepare when we then leave this physical body, right? This is like a diving suit to go back to the spirit world. And he says there are 2 types of spirits on earth, which includes incarnates and discarnates. One is the type which realizes the earth is a place of learning, a location to mold their character, and then return to the higher spiritual spheres. That's what Spiritism and other religions have been talking about to everybody. This is a place where you improve yourself. The other is bound to the earth, attached to earthly pleasures and material goods. Now, this is where our current culture is really counterproductive to our spiritual life, because our current culture is all about material goods and earthly pleasures. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you balance that. I'm not telling anybody to go wear hair shirts or give away all your wealth or go out with a begging bowl. No, but you need to balance. To balance your is when you buy things for their utilization. Don't let them own you. You own them. They don't own you. But yet, how many people are the opposite, right? So Zabdal, in his communication to the Reverend Vale Owen, talks about the surprise of those who arrive at the spirit world unprepared for their new reality. Think about that. Think of how your friends say, "Oh, when I'm dead, I'm dead. It's gone." Well, think about your friends waking up and all of a sudden go, "Oh my, I still have a body, and I'm kind of still me." What's that? Well, that's what Spiritism tells us. We are who we are when we pass over. Amazing, is it not? So Dad Bell tells us this: many are very much surprised to find themselves allotted to a place of which they had heard with their outer ears, but had not further inquired as to its reality. So what's he saying? When men or women who never gave the possibility of life continuing forever, a second thought, leave their bodies, many do not even realize they have passed on. They believe themselves to be in some strange earthly location and can't quite place where it is. Now, how many times have you heard mediums and others will say, "Well, the spirit is lost. It doesn't even know they're dead." In fact, I've heard when I've been in mediums meeting and a type of meeting where they try to help incarnate spirits you're lost, and many say, no one talks to me. I don't know, what's going on. Well, they don't know that they've actually gotten rid of their physical body, and they're in their physical body what they see, but it's more ethereal. It's in the spirit body, and your spirit body is really a mechanism of your mind. It's a creation of your mind. You look who you want to look like, right? So if you were in your 50s and you die and you go in the spirit world, you will start to look like how you idealize yourself. Like maybe you're 25, right? You don't have any gray skin, right? Your gray hair, I should say. Your skin looks good, etc. So Zabdal illustrates his point with how he helped a man who had just died. This is what he said. I was once sent to receive a man who required some careful dealings with, for he was one who had many rather decided opinions as to these realms, and whose mind had been filled with ideas of what was right and proper as to the life continued here. I met him as the spirit attendants brought him from the earth regions and led him to the grove of trees where I awaited him. He walked between them and seemed dazed somewhat, as if he thought what he could not find. I motioned to the two to set him to stand alone before me, and they retired some little distance behind him. He could not see me plainly at first, but I concentrated my will upon him, and at last he looked at me searchingly. So, again, here's another lesson from the spirit world. Zabdal had to make himself denser in order for that man, for him to be seen, right? The higher the spirit, the less material and more energy, whereas those in the lower spheres are composed of a greater ratio of matter to energy. Hence, spirits from superior planes can't be detected by residents in inferior levels. Therefore, using his mind to transform his spirit body into a more solid object, Zabdal became apparent to the newly passed over man. Next, Zabdal was able to engage in conversation. Then I said to him, "Sir, you seek what you cannot find, and I may help you. First, tell me, how long have you been to this country of ours?" "That," he answered, "I find difficult to say. I had certainly arranged to go abroad, and I thought it was into Africa. I was going, but I did not find this place anyway what I expected." And Zabdal says, "No, this is not Africa, and from that country you are a long distance away." And he said, "Well, what is the name of this country then? And in what tribe of people are these? They are white and very handsome, but I never came on any quite like them, even in my reading." And Zabdal said, "Well, there you're not quite exact. For a scientist such as you are, you have read of these people without realizing that they were anything more than puppets without life and natural qualities. These are those you have read as saints and angels. As such am I." Very profound. So then the guy said, "Well, but," and then he paused. He didn't, and Zabdal says he did not believe me and feared to offend, not knowing what consequence would ensue. For he was in a strange country among strange folk and without escort. So then Zabdal said, "Look, you have the biggest task before you have ever encountered. In all your journeys, you have come to no barrier so high and thick as this. For I will be quite plain to you and tell you the truth. You will not believe it, but believe me until you do believe it and understand. you will not have peace of mind, nor will you be able to make any progress. What you have before you to do is to take the opinions of a lifetime, turn them upside down and inside out, and own yourself no longer a scholar and great scientist, but the various babe in knowledge, and that nearly all you thought worthy of my consideration at all as to this country was either unworthy, a thinking being, or absolutely wrong. Now, these are hard words. They are necessary, but look well on me and tell me, if you can read me, whether I be honest and friendly or no. So the man looked at him and says, well, though I'm altogether at sea as what you mean, your words seem like those of some misguided enthusiast, yet your face is honest enough, and I think you wish me well. Now, what does he want me to believe? So Zabdal set this all up. And then he told the man, have you heard of death? He goes, faced it many a time. He goes, well, Zabdal said, as now you're facing me, and yet you know neither one nor the other, what kind of knowledge call you that which looks on a thing without knowing what it is? And then the guy said, well, if you will be plain and tell me something I can understand, I may be able to get the hang of things a little bit better. So that all says, okay. Then first of all, you are what you would call dead. And then the guy said, he just laughed. He goes, who are you? What are you trying to do with me? Are you bent on trying to make me a fool of me? Say so and be done with it. Let me go on my way. Is there any village near at hand where I can get food and shelter while I think over my future course? And Zabdal says, you don't require food. No, for you are not hungry, nor do you require shelter, for you are not bodily tired, nor do you observe any sign of night at all. And this he paused and said, you're quite right. I'm not hungry. It is strange, but it's quite true. I'm not hungry. And this day certainly has been the longest on record. I don't understand it at all. And then he felt into thinking again. He says, you are what you would call, and then Zabdal said, you are what you would call dead, and this is the spirit land. You have left the earth, and this is the life beyond which you must now live and come to understand. Until you grasp this initial truth, further help I cannot give you. I leave you to think it over. When you wish for me, if you should so wish, I will come to you. These two gentlemen who led you here are spirit attendants. You may question them and they will answer. Only this remember, you shall not be suffered to ridicule what they say and laugh at them as you did but now at my words. Only if you are humble and courteous will I allow you their company. You have in you much of that is worth, and you also have, as many more have I met, much vanity and foolishness of mine. This I will not suffer you to flaunt in the face of my friends. So be wise in time and remember that you're now on the borderland between the spheres of light and those of shade. And he's talking about heaven and the umbrella, the lower zone. And it lies in you to be led into one or the other. So go of your own free will into the other. May God help you in that he will if you will. So very interesting. Not how many people do we know like this, right? The man was unready for the unexpected termination of his life. He compartmentalized all the notions of life beyond what he could see and hear for himself as fairy tales or wishful thinking. I understand. I have been there. And, I've always kind of had this concept of God, but I wasn't sure, death. I always thought, am I still me? Am I, what happens, right? This is where Spiritism gives us certainty. It's just that, and this is where God's plan is just so wonderful. And Jesus is helping us achieve God's plan, is that the spirit, right? When we die, we are still ourselves. And as we even go up into be more and more pure spirits, we have our own unique personality. It's, many people say, oh, we become part of the whole, right? And, there's truth to that. We are somewhat, we get more involved, we do become more part of the whole to a certain sense, but we always retain our uniqueness, our personality, our character. This is what you must remember. This is so important. And that's why we're here, to improve our personality, to improve our character, become good, because as spirits go up, they have more power. Just like Zabdal, right? He made himself visible. He could read that person's mind. I talk about in my book, Heaven and Below, and then even in How Spirits Guide Us, the power of spirits. That's why we're being trained. We're being trained to control our minds, because our mind is our thoughts, our actions in the spirit world. It is more fantastic than any science fiction or fantasy book you could read. So this guy, he was a product of the current arc of Earth's destiny, kind of where we are now. He grew up in a culture which categorized all religious sentiment as romantic notions. Whereas early in human history, we collectively lived close to the spirit world, for that was all we had, right? As human knowledge expanded, we grew away from it. The spirit world knows that this is an expected result of intellectual and technological advances. Mankind would travel from one extreme of the pendulum, complete reliance upon spirituality, to the other extreme, recognizing nothing except what can be materially proven. We're in that little pendulum swing right now. Our obsession in ridiculing any spiritual phenomenon will eventually cease due to irrefutable facts. The spirit Emmanuel, who was one of the spirit mentors of Chico Xavier, tells us that the very scientists who are ardent non-believers are actually working unknowingly towards proving the existence of the spiritual plane. That will come one day. Zabdal told Vale Owen that the man was helped by his two companions, but he couldn't adjust and wandered down to the lesser planes. Only after considerable length of time did he call Zabdal to meet him once again in the grove. So Zabdal tells us what happened with this man. There I went to meet him in that same spot in the grove of trees. He was much more thoughtful and gentler and less ready to scoff. So I looked at him silently, and he looked on me and knew me, and then he bent his head in shame and contrition. He was very sorry that he left at my words. Then he came forward slowly and knelt before me, and I saw his shoulders shake with sobbing as he bit his face in his hand. So I blessed him with my hand upon his head and spoke words of comfort and left him. So we, as the human race, right, we'll go through the same cycles. The man who didn't realize he was in heaven, that it was before him all the time, but he never saw it. Only when he opened his eyes and his heart did everything reveal itself. And this is what I've said before, and you just heard me say this from Zabdal, was, what is wisdom? Wisdom is intellect plus love, plus spirituality. And that's what we need to be. We're not here on earth to become this great scientist. Well, it's important too, but we are, our intellectual capability is much better in the spirit world, but we are really here to fashion our intellect with spirituality and love and kindness and fraternity and charity. And part of this one is that, we need to know that we need to communicate with spirits, right? As we go and we transfer from a planet of atonement, which we are now, right? Where we have good, bad, indifferent, mature spirits on our earth, and we just like walk in the sea of thoughts coming at us. We will eventually be in a planet of regeneration where we shall be surrounded mostly by good spirits, right? So Zabdal communication with the Reverend Vale Owen on December 1st, 1913 states that the primary reason Jesus was sentenced to death by the ruling Jewish religious order was because he told the people that life wasn't just on earth. So this is, one of the things that Jesus came is he knew we would be going through this phase. He wanted to tell us, no, we're not just, life is just on earth. He said, our dusty plane was only a lowly way station, and those in charge of humans on earth were poor reflections of the governance of high spirits. And so Zabdal explains further. He said, throughout his teaching, this is the one great motive, and for this it was that his enemies put him to death. Had his kingdom been of this world alone, he had not discounted their temporal aspirations nor their manner of life as to its ease and grandeur, but he showed that the kingdom was of those higher realms, and that the church on earth was but the vestibule to the presence chamber. That being so, then the virtues by which nobility should be measured were those which govern rank in those brighter regions, and not the mixed conditions of the lower portions of that kingdom as interpreted by the world. Now, this is very interesting because I believe Zabdal is absolutely correct, right? Because he showed them that, just because you are a high priest, or you are this important politician, or you're like the prime minister or the dictator of the country, that doesn't mean that you're important. Spiritism tells us so many important people that never get noticed, the spiritual people, wonderful, good people. And also this idea that this life on earth is one that we need to learn and become better. And you'll see hints of that in the Bible. Spiritism tells us more of the hints and more of the actual talking about reincarnation was excised from the Bible, because They didn't want people, the Catholic Church did not want people thinking that they could survive, and this was just one step of many without the priest. In fact, if you look at this reason and you wonder, well, why did Rome hate the Christians, right? Why did they crucify Christians? Because look, if you look at the history of Rome, they had thousands, and I'm not even exaggerating. They had thousands of gods in their pantheon. They said, okay, Egypt, yeah, ISIS, yeah, come on over. Yeah, the Greek gods, come on over. Yeah, this one, you're fine. Why did they hate the Christians, right? Because Christianity said the same thing as what Jesus said to the high priest of Judaism. The Christians said to the ruling class of the Romans. They said the Romans, like, you're not that important. My life is just one step. The importance of my life is creating love and charity and fraternity and being more wise. Therefore, just because I was born a slave doesn't mean that I'm going to be any different from you who are Caesar or a centurion or a senator. This, where someone who should be under them, who is not impressed with their being and their power, had to be wiped out. The same reason, if you'll see, where in Gaul, where the Romans were, after Caesar conquered them, why they wiped out the Druids. Because after all, right, Rome did not really want to wipe out religions. That was, it's first of all, it's inefficient, and you just want to absorb them, correct? But the Druids, who were very close to Spiritism, right, they believe you went through life after life, improving yourself, and finally getting to being a pure spirit. I'm not using the exact words they're using, I'm paraphrasing. So you can leave in comments, what you think I said wrong, but eventually you would get to that pure spirit where you were in heaven. You never had to come back as life, right? Although they did believe that sometimes you could go backwards, where Spiritism say, no, you don't go backwards. You never become an animal. You always at the level, you might be sent to other planets to learn more, but you always go further. But the Druids believe in the same thing. The Druids believe it's like, oh, who cares about Rome? You're an earthly power. Yeah, you're not that important. Well, you can't allow that, right? That's why communism, North Korea, the Soviet Union, China, they cannot allow religion where people believe that their immediate masters aren't the most powerful things in the world, because you can't have that. That is why the Romans hated the Christians, and they also went after the Druids. They wiped them out too. But luckily, they couldn't wipe out the Christians. But I digress. So, being compared to decent, loving, caring, and honest souls residing in the spiritual realm, essentially was unacceptable to the rulers on earth, right? It still is. And they knew that in comparison, they would constantly fail. So this is still true today, as I just said. So Zabdal exhorts us to seek out higher spirits and learn about their loving presence. He tells us this. Also, it is on our part a marvel that man should be found who hesitate on the way, and fear that to speak to us is wrong and displeasing to him, who himself came into the world for this same reason, that he may show how both the spiritual material were but two faces of the one great kingdom, and the unity of both together. So he's telling us, like many religions today, the Catholic Church being one of them, attempts to dissuade their followers from direct contact with benevolent spirits. They seek to control knowledge and access. Religions which preach that talking to spirits are really talking to demons. They have a point now, right? They are, and it is a good point, I'm not denying that, is that there are many low and malevolent spirits wandering to earth which may fool the unwary. But the remedy is education of how to detect spirits with our best interests at heart to those who use us for amusement or worse. Spiritism was revealed to supplement our knowledge and take it out of the hands of secretive orders. And Allan Kardec wrote about this, about how to discern the quality of spirits in one of his 1858 editions of his magazine, Spiritist Review. He wrote about a young medium who was fooled by a lesser spirit into performing nonsensical acts, right? And you'll see this a lot of times. These people will say, oh, I listened to my medium, and you say, what's he talking? I listened to the spirit. And I say, well, no, that spirit's, I don't think he's telling you right things, right? And then some of them will just think, I know everything. And when you ever hear a medium talk about a spirit, first of all, and I'll get to this, what Alan Kardec said in a minute, but I kind of make it more general, is high spirits first will never tell you about details of your love life and who you should go out with. They won't tell you where gold is hidden in your backyard. They won't tell you to be mean or hate somebody. They won't tell you any of that. They will tell you how to improve yourselves. They will give you broad precepts. Because why? Because we are on earth to improve ourselves. We're not on earth to be told exactly what to do. We have to make that choice. And sometimes making the wrong choice, just like with kids, is even better for us eventually than making the right choice, right? Because then we learn a hard lesson. Some of us have to learn a hard lesson. I know I have many times. So this is what's interesting. Alan Kardec in this article says, okay, some people can get misled by listening to spirits. Now he lays out 8 main points to remember when dealing with spirits, and each one is worth keeping in mind when dealing with the other world. This is why, the Catholic Church and other churches, Protestant Church, they have a point. Is that if you try to talk to spirits, get that Ouija board. I tell everybody, don't do that. You have to study. You have to be prepared, because you never know when you're going to be tricked. But if you prepare yourself, read Alan Kardec's, read the Spirits book, read this book on mediums, mediumship, learn about that. Read Andre Luis's, he's the spirit who talked to Chico Xavier. Read about these things and understand how to talk, and then how to prepare yourself to talk to higher spirits. And one of the ways to do that is to take the same time, like one night a week, right, at the same time, and meditate and just think good thoughts. And then, because the level of person you are spiritually is the level of spirits that will come to you. And then as you keep this routine, or if it's you, maybe a group of people, pray first. I can go a lot more, maybe a different program, but how to set that up. Not that I'm a medium, because I'm not. And you should get to other people who know more than I do. But you will be protected the more you have higher aspirations and higher spirituality. Other high spirits will protect you from being approached by lower spirits. Now they may approach you, as learning possibilities, but they'll be under the control of higher spirits. So this is what Alan Kardec said. This is really important. This is what he said, the 8 points. So number 1, the spirits are not all equal, nor in power, nor in knowledge or wisdom, as they are no more than human souls detached from their corporeal body. And remember that. They're just us, right? If we are who we are when we die, there's really great people and there's not so great people. They present, this is what he's saying, they present a variety even greater than that of people on earth, because they come from all worlds and among the globe. Earth is neither the most basic nor the most advanced. Thus, there are very superior spirits, as there are very inferior ones, very good and very bad, very wise and very ignorant. There are those of levity, malevolence, liars, astute, hypocrites, polished, sharp jokers, etc. Believe me, I've heard some of these as I've participated in spiritism, in mediums meeting, not at the table, but just at the chair behind the table, along the wall. And I've heard them, and I've seen them. I've seen them make fun of us. It's very interesting. And, and they're complex people, right? They are people just like us. And I heard one spirit who was, made fun of us all, oh, you guys believe in Jesus, you're a bunch of idiots and you don't practice what you preach. I understand what he says. And then they said, well, don't you want love? And then his tone changed, and he said, well, we find our own love. We make do with our environment that we have. So this is, the spirit world's complex. It's not like a hell. It's different levels, and there's different spirits. So just be prepared. And that's why when you think you're talking to high spirit, listen to them over the long run. You'll find out. Okay, number 2. We are incessantly surrounded by a cloud of spirits that occupy the space around us, despite the fact that we cannot see them, watching our acts and reading our thoughts. Some to do us good, others to do us harm, whether good or bad spirits, accordingly. Number 3, from the physical and moral inferiority of our globe and the hierarchy of worlds, the inferior spirits are more numerous here than the superior ones. Keep that in mind. Number 4, among those spirits that surround us are those that attach to us, that act more particularly over our thoughts, giving us advice and whose influence we follow unnoticeably. Good for us if we hear the voice of good spirits only. See, this is again where I'm telling you, when we're inspiration, but filter everything through that conscience, right? Learn to listen to your conscience. If you can listen to your conscience and not rationalize away the bad ideas, like I did for most of my life, right, until I finally learned not to, you'll just learn so much in this life. Number 5, the inferior spirits only bond to those that listen to them, that give them access and to whom they connect. If successful on dominating someone, they identify with their own spirit, fascinating them, obsessing them, subjugating them, and leading them as one does to a child. Now, again, so this is, think of this as the playground where the bully, if you react to the bully and, this would be an art of the bullies, they will have fun. Oh, God, this person reacts. Now, if you don't react, many times they'll just, forget them. We're not going to care. This is no fun. Number 6, obsession can never happen but by inferior spirits. The good spirits don't produce any kind of coercion, combat the influence of the bad spirits, or stay away when they are not listened to. So remember that. High spirits never take over your body. They don't do that. And let's talk about exorcism for a bit. Spiritism say that is to even the spirits will say that's just a joke, right? You're not going to say, oh, you have to leave that body. No, it doesn't work that way. You can get rid of obsessor spirits, but you have to work with those obsessor spirits and help them and show them how they should let God and Jesus create the plan. Because usually obsession happens when that person in that body, and they may have no knowledge of it, God bless them, but in some previous life did something very terrible to that spirit or spirits. And now that spirit wants revenge. Or they may even been related to a person that did something bad to them, and they want revenge on that just to hurt that other person. That is what, then you have to talk to those spirits and make sure, and this is what other spirits will do, and make sure that the person says, no, this is not productive of your time. But there's many different, and don't believe it. There's many different angles on this. So I'm just saying that's kind of how Spiritism. That just gives you a quick how Spiritism approaches it. Number 7, the degree of coercion and the nature of the effects it produces determine the difference between obsession, subjugation, and fascination. Obsession is almost the permanent action of a strange spirit that leads the person to be solicited by an incessant need to act by this way or the other, to do this or that. Subjugation is a moral bond that paralyzes the free will of this one who suffers it, pushing the person to the most reckless attitudes, frequently most contrary to their own interest. We've all seen both of these, haven't we? Fascination is a kind of illusion produced by the direct action of a strange spirit or by his cunning thoughts. Such as illusion produces an alteration in the comprehension of moral things, leading to misjudgment and to mistake evil for good. Again, we've seen that with people who we call psychotic, and someone will kill. Say, well, I thought that person was the devil, or I thought that. Well, that's because someone is creating these illusions in their mind. Poor person. Unfortunately, what happens in our current culture is we give them so much drugs, actually, makes them worse. Although drugs can be helpful too. So one thing Spiritism always says is, and that's what Spiritist centers in Brazil do when people are obsessed. They don't take them off of drugs. They use everything that's being used now, but they try to work them spiritually and with our current medicine. Number 8, human beings can always disengage from the impression of the imperfect spirits by their willpower, by the choice between good and bad. If the coercion achieve the point of paralyzing the will, and if the fascination is such that it obliterates reasons, then the will of a third person may replace it. So some people can't, right? And even Allan Kardec said that, sometimes you just can't do it, so you need help. And you need to get to that person and help them, pray, meditate more, listen to their own will. So therefore, okay, well, let's think about what was said. For those in the process of just curious about communicating in the spirit world, one must be on guard and wary to whom you let into your house and home. And I recommend you find Spiritist centers where conditions are tightly controlled to communicate with spirits approved by higher spirits. There's never any charges to the service, right? Remember, if you're at a Spiritist center and you have problems or you need to know something, Now, not all do that. In the United States, we're somewhat still immature, but many places do have that still, spiritual centers. You can look that up. You go to my blog, nwspiritism.com, and there's a list there. I forgot where the link is, but it's on there where you can find spiritual centers in your community. There's still not as many as, we're just growing, but they won't charge. We don't charge you for that. This is helping. So it's not like people will go to, mediums and this and all, for $300, I'll tell you your future. Well, first of all, don't do that. We're not meant to be told our future. We're meant to learn. We're meant to, these trials that will come on us, and then we're meant to learn within those trials. That's why we don't know our past lives. There's a reason we don't know our past lives, because the pure world doesn't want us to. Why should we know the answers to the test before we take them? So that all lets us know that until we gain a better communion with the spirit world, our progress will remain difficult. This is what he said. For that they killed him. And today there is remaining too much, as we see it, of their sentiment, both in the church and in the world outside. And until men do realize us, our presence and our right of consideration as fellow members of the same kingdom of the Father, and not until this come to pass, so men make much advance in discerning between light and darkness. Very true. And we've seen that, right? During the 19th, 20th, and now the 21st centuries, there has been an increased activity in the spirit realm on our behalf. With the advent of Spiritism in the 1850s, the seeds for the complete transformation of the earth have been planted. Zabdal defines it as light being directed into the darkness. We are in the midst of a new plethora of knowledge about the realm that put us here and guides our daily life. Is at our doorstep. It is up to each individual to determine whether it will be picked up and acted upon or not, all according to our free will. So we're coming to the end, but I just want to tell everybody, this is why Spiritism is here. We are here at a time when we are now going to be told more and more through real able to communicate with spirits. And this is up to each one of us. But we need to study and we need to work more. So when you study, start with the Spirits book, right? By Allan Kardec. If you're interested, look at my book, How We Are Guided by Spirits. And of course, the links to all my books are at the description in the YouTube. When we do the YouTube channel, there'll be the description below. Please share this clip. Please share this YouTube video. Please share this Facebook live stream video. Talk to your friends about it. Do your friends a favor. And those who don't believe at all, don't impose yourself, right? Because Spiritism isn't like, we don't sit on the street corner and say, no, you must believe, or you're going to go to hell. No, there's none of that. There's no such thing as, forever hell, forever purgatory, right? No, we just want to put the information there. And if they pick it up, fine. But I do like to tell my friends, if they say, no, I don't believe that. So I do tell them this. I said, look, when you pass on, just have this little thing that there might be life after death. Don't just cut yourself off, right? Because you never know. Just do me a favor and just think, Brian may seem crazy, but he could be right. So I'll keep an open mind. So that's all I ask that way, because it'll be much easier for them to wake up and realize where they are in the spirit world. So I want to thank everybody for who listened to me tonight. Please share this. Please tell your friends. I think it's wonderful that we are here together. And again, every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, all time zones around, we will be here. We'll have our live Facebook site and our streaming site. Again, if you miss this, go to our YouTube channel. All of these are loaded onto YouTube, plus a lot of other information. And I'm actually having more. This wonderful woman in Brazil is actually translating a lot of my videos into Portuguese. So for those who are in Brazil can actually listen to me if they don't understand English that well. So anyway, I just want to say God bless everybody, and I put my credits on right now. I would like to thank everyone for listening to our program on Kardec Radio, and to point you in a direction to find more information about the spirit world around us. You can visit my blog at www.nwspiritism.com. Again, that is www.nw as in Northwest Spiritism.com. And if you are ever in the Northwest, I certainly would welcome to have you come
to our meeting on Bainbridge Island near Seattle in the state of Washington. Many blessings to all of you, and please continue to explore Spiritism and the spirit world around us.